before I graduated, I was supposed to join Google. Google offered me a job to go and work there as a salesperson. But at the last minute, I realized that I wanted to work in a much smaller company.
How do you know the problem that is described are actually a true problem, not a fake problem?
So one of the things we did to validate that idea, were people willing to finance their travel, was how do I give credit to people? So we literally took my personal credit card and I gave it to strangers on the internet, the number. Hey, go and book your travel and then pay me back over like 3 months. I trust you. You know what was the crazy thing? Like 9 out of 10 people pay me back.
Do you take any learnings that you apply right now in Replyr?
My startup is not my child. And my startup is not me. A startup is more like science laboratory. You do experiments inside. Most of the experiments will fail. And the failures can give you insights on what not to do or what to do. And then you double down on the things that work.
What is your single best tip for founders who are selling a B2B product?
Just listen.
What is your ARR now?
We are about 180,000.
How do you scale from 0 to 100,000?
So,
if you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube for more. Also, if you want to become a better founder by learning from founder and failed startup stories, don't forget to subscribe to my free newsletter. Check it out at therunway.ventures. Let's get into it. Hey Dylan, thank you so much for being here and welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Dylan is the founder of Replyr.ai. Some of you might have already heard of Najib AI and different products that Dylan has built before, but we'll go into that later. But basically, Replyr AI is a WhatsApp-first AI assistant for businesses, converting chats into customers, and it is pretty interesting, which we can go through it later. But before that, right, Dylan, could you maybe just share more about your background? And also your founder story and most importantly, your journey of building Replyr.
So thanks for having me. It's really good to be on. So Replyr is my second company that I've started. So to wind the clock back, I originally from Malaysia. I grew up in Penang. And then I decided to move to Singapore for my university. And that was my first exposure into the real world, I guess, instead of being in a small town like Penang, right? And I studied my degree in business management, majoring in marketing and corporate comms, totally not technical at all at the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do for my career, so I did maybe 4 or 5 different internships while I was still in school. And the internship that I really enjoyed was working at a tech company. At that time, this was probably 10 to 12 years ago. It was a company called Skyscanner that I think a lot of people are very familiar with now. At that point, nobody really knew about that company yet. So I did an internship there and I had such a good time that I decided I wanted to work in tech. Tech was really fun. And I started my journey into figuring out technology, how it works, online SEO, SEM, digital marketing. And before I graduated, I was supposed to join Google. Google offered me a job to go and work there as a salesperson. But at the last minute, I realized that I wanted to work in a much smaller company. So I decided to work in this startup called Skyscanner full-time after graduating. And I'm telling you this story because that was my first experience of what entrepreneurship was like, because Skyscanner at that time was a founder-led company, and eventually the founder had a really good, successful exit to a larger travel company. And throughout my 4 to 5 years over there, I got to experience what it's like from working in a really small team, especially in the Asia office, and then to see what it was like to grow a company that you work at into a massive unicorn and then that successful exit. So once the company exited, that was like a major milestone for me, because I started working with all these people and we built the business together, at least in Asia. And then we saw how significant that could be as from the founder's perspective to exit like that and immediately overnight. Like, this was a huge success story. I think that was the inspiration for me. I looked at that story because I also spoke to the founder numerous times, like one-on-one, and you could tell that he was super dedicated and passionate in what he was doing. And that spurred me into deciding I want to start my own company also. So not too long after the company exited, I decided I wanted to quit my job and start my own company. So my first company, I joined Entrepreneur First. If viewers are not aware of what Entrepreneur First is, it's a place where you go find a founder. You get matched with a founder. Think of it like Tinder for founders. That's what I like to say when people ask me what it is. Met my co-founder there, and we decided to start a fintech company together with having very little to no experience in fintech. So long story short, we spent about 4 to 5 years over there. We can dive into that part later. I think that's like a failure that is super interesting to talk about. And eventually over time, I had a major pivot into what I'm doing right now, Replyr. So I consider Replyr my second company because it's super different from what I was doing before. And yeah, here we are, like 8 years later into my founder journey, and I'm still like on this treadmill, constantly running.
Wow, awesome. And before we jump right into Replyr, which I think there's so much stuff there, right? I'm pretty curious about what happened in between from your Skyscanner to Replyr, because I understand that you started building Split, right, before Sugar.
Yeah.
So Split was the e-commerce BNPL back then, right? And then the value prop that you had back then is no interest, no late fee, and also first Sharia certified compliant BNPL. So what happened? Like, what happened during this period? And I understand that you also pivoted to Sugar. Could you maybe walk me through the journey?
Great. Let's start in the beginning, right?
Yes.
So when I mentioned I joined Entrepreneur First, this is a place where you find co-founders. I met my co-founder over there. He has a more product and technical background.
Yeah.
And I have a more domain commercial background. So when we met each other, one of the things that I noticed was that the access to credit and credit card penetration in Malaysia, where the market that we were looking at, was very low. I mean, it's very skewed towards upper middle, high income consumers. But if you're lower to middle income, then your access to credit is very limited. And because I had a domain knowledge in the travel industry, we decided, let's try to validate an idea of, can we help people finance their trips or their vacations or their holidays so that they don't have to fork out all the money up front. So that was the idea initially. And bear in mind, this was in 2018, before like buy now, pay later was a thing, before COVID was a thing as well. So one of the things we did to validate that idea, were people willing to finance their travel, was how do I give credit to people? So we literally took my personal credit card and I gave it to strangers on the internet, the number. Hey, go and book your travel and then pay me back over like 3 months. I trust you. So the idea was, at the same time during when we were doing that, was the Malaysian general elections, if you remember, in 2018. So there was a diaspora, all the Malaysians around the world trying to come home to go and vote. So I went on Twitter. At the time it was called Twitter, not X. I asked like, hey, anyone is planning to go back to vote, and you're looking for, and you can't afford the flight tickets, let me help you. So then we got our first few like users, and I said, okay, let me book it for you. And then, or if you want to book it yourself, here's my credit card. We did give my credit card to a couple of people, and then they would book it. And then I get the total amount, and I say, okay, pay me back in 3 months. So, and you know what was the crazy thing? Like 9 out of 10 people pay me back. Yeah. I was already willing to lose that money. I think I maxed out. Yeah, I think I maxed out my credit card doing that. And then 9 out of 10 people pay me back. So then strangers on the internet were willing to pay me back. I thought I would get scammed like by everyone.
Yeah.
But it turns out there are, a number of people who were good-hearted enough to give me back. So that was the early kind of indication that maybe we could build a business out of this. Yeah. Then we went to, now this was the first mistake that we made that I can share now. We took too long to get our first customer. We were so obsessed about, hey, this is the idea we want to do. This is my vision of the product. This is who I want to target. Then we just went all in. We spent our pre-seed funding, and we spent so much time, 1 to 2 years, coming up with the product, just to serve a handful of customers that we thought were the right customers. I think looking back at it now, that was a waste of time. Like we could have done that in like 1 or 2 months and figured it out very early without having to spend a lot of money and time on building out the product. Yeah. So let me jump to it. We spent 2 years figuring out this product, and I had one airline in my mind. It was a regional airline here in Southeast Asia. And finally, I think the sales cycle was like 1 year, and then we had to go through with so many different teams. And finally, at the end of 2019, after spending so much time on like working out the commercials and how it's going to be implemented, The CEO just changed his mind, and then he says, you know what, guys, I don't want to work with you anymore. Then as a startup, what can you do, right? We put all our eggs in this basket. We thought, okay, this is going to build us $1 billion business. Finally, the airline said, no, sorry, we don't work with you anymore. So essentially, we were caught with our pants down, and we were stuck. But if you think about it, at the end of 2019, it was right before COVID.
Yeah.
Right? So if we had worked with them, and if they decided to work with us, we would have died in 2020 and lost everything, because no one will pay you back.
Yeah.
Because of COVID. Yeah. So, might have been just been a coincidence, but we had to pivot because we had a bit of funding left. At that time, we had already raised our seed funding, and we had a bit of funding left. And then of course, we were very depressed for 1 or 2 weeks, losing out in your eyes, the biggest deal. We sat down for 2 weeks and we brainstormed, okay, what can we build? Then we were like, hey, wait, we have the tech stack for travel finance. Why can't we just apply it to e-commerce? Everyone is staying at home now, right? People need to buy yoga mat, toilet paper, and everything. Why don't we just do that? So we did that, and we just flipped it over for e-commerce. So looking at WooCommerce, Shopify, how we could integrate that. And then I just went out and cold called all businesses that I could find until we found customers who are willing to fine, okay, I will pay you 5% of my sales if you give me that sale from your BNPL or your payment system. Yeah, and that's how we got our first few customers on BNPL. And I remember I was stuck at home during lockdown, and I remember looking at our sales notifications. On one day, it was just like zoom up like magic, and we were just looking at it and holy crap, people are actually using this. Then that's when we discovered, okay, I can go and look at a lot more of these businesses and find other people who might need this service and serve them as well. So that's kind of how we got into e-commerce BNPL. But that was the start of okay, BNPL was a zero interest rate period. This was the time, this was the gold time to launch a fintech company. So we rode that wave for 1 to 2 years, and it was amazing. It was so fun. But at the same time, with every high, there is a crash back. So that's I guess a summary of the journey. But we can also dive into the specifics inside on what happened.
Yeah, I mean, how long do you spend to build the first V1 of your e-com BNPL after you pivoted from the travel BNPL to e-com? Yeah.
I think it's less than a month, because we had all the stack there to pay in installments already. Yeah. Stripe makes it so easy for you as well. We just needed to connect into WooCommerce, Shopify, Magento, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. And then what happened after that? Because when you were building the BNPL, you mentioned before the things came down, right? That means there was a down period of BNPL after you started that.
Yes.
And what happened next? Do you manage to fundraise or?
Yeah, so after our seed round, which was originally for the travel company, we had so much traction in our e-commerce BNPL. I remember this day very clearly, because we had signed the largest retailer for Apple products in Malaysia. We just by chance on me, cold emailing and cold calling, I finally found this deal. And overnight, our sales, I think, are 10x in terms of the transactions, which also meant that we needed money to finance all these installments. So for viewers who don't know the buy now, pay later model, we work with retailers, businesses who sell to their customers. And when their customers are paying using our service, they can pay in 2 to 3 installments without interest. But we would pay upfront the business the full amount minus our fees, which is typically between 4 to 8%. Okay? So that's how we make money. But the way we make money is extremely reliant upon people paying us back. If people don't pay us back, we basically lose that amount. That's our, what we call defaults, right? Yeah, so I remember overnight, suddenly we had a huge influx of people who suddenly discovered this debit card installment. Remember I talked about the lack of access to credit? People using their debit cards to finance their purchases for AirPods or their new phones. But we were so scared because suddenly people were buying all this and we had no way of knowing if they were going to pay us back. And we also had very limited funding because we used so much of the money trying to iterate our first version, remember? So I panicked so much that my co-founder and I, we needed to meet up and just like talk, like, what do we need? What do we do, man? We were so afraid. And at that time, COVID didn't allow people to meet in groups. I couldn't meet my team. But they allowed haircuts.
Okay.
So I arranged for my co-founder and I, we got haircuts at a barber.
Okay.
Yeah, we got haircuts. And then we went to the barber and we had our haircuts slots next to each other, which meant that we were able to be in the barber and like talking and like discussing. Yeah, just trying to calm each other down. Hey, how are people going to pay us back? Yeah. The good news was that people did pay us back because it was such a new payment method. Like, you get really good customers initially, but building a business like this, over time, your quality of your cohorts degrades because you really lose. You've already served all the really good customers, and the only ones left you can serve are like people with not so good credit. So, but we were able to build that business, I think, equivalent. We probably processed more than 100 million ringgit worth of transactions.
Wow.
And we were making money on a unit economic basis. That means every transaction we were doing, we were actually making money, but very small, maybe about 1%. The problem was that the margins were not going up over time, they were going down. Because in the buy now, pay later model, there are a few costs that go into every transaction. Your revenue comes from the merchant, which is what we make. We don't charge any late fees or interest to customers.
Yeah.
But we have to pay, number one, our payment gateway, which is Stripe. Stripe is not the cheapest in the market, but they have a really good product.
Yeah.
Number two is your cost of funds. That you need to get money to lend out money. So if interest rates go up, we have to pay more interest, which means we lose more margin. The third one is our provision for defaults. How likely people are going to default. If people default, we have to write that off. Yeah, so that's like the most uncontrollable part. Yeah. And the last one, of course, is your customer acquisition cost. Yeah. So if those things are going up, your margins are going down. So there's no way that you can control a couple of them at least. Yeah, like interest rates and the default. It's very hard. Yeah. So we grew our business. I think we were making at one point about $60,000 per month in revenue. And we had got interest from venture capital already. So this was maybe late 2021. Yeah. One
after
of the
COVID,
investors.
during COVID.
This was, I guess, past the peak of COVID already. The world was starting to open up already, right? And if you remember, the peak of like the tech boom was until the end of 2021. That's when it all started coming down, right? So we had interest from venture capital, and after fundraising for so long, I managed to find 2 lead investors. One for our equity round, and 2 for our debt, because we need to borrow money to lend it out. Okay, I closed our debt round first, so we signed our term sheet for 10 million USD, so we can scale pretty much as big as we can in Malaysia. And then for our equity investment, it took us about 4 months of due diligence, like back and forth phone calls, calling customer. So it took a lot of my time and effort away from the business. Unfortunately, or also fortunately now with hindsight, after that 4 months of due diligence, what I didn't know behind the scenes was that this VC, or they claim to be a VC, didn't actually have what they were telling me they had.
Oh, wait. Are they legit not have the money, or you thought that they didn't have the money? Did they have the fund at all?
I thought they had the funds because I had seen them invest in other, well, at least one other company. But it was only after it all like crumbled down, and only I found out in other ways that they didn't actually have what they were telling me that they had.
Crazy.
And the reason it took 4 months was not because they didn't want to close it, was because they didn't have it.
Yeah.
So I put that behind. I've already forgiven them. Like I consider that like a scar that I had to suffer, a wound that I had to suffer, so that I have a scar that reminds me of what not to do. So that was a really tough time because one day they just said, "Hey, sorry, we decided not to fund you." I thought it was, did we screw up or something? Or did I do something wrong? And you always blame yourself, right, as a founder. Like, what did I do? And it was only after I realized that actually, you know what? Even if I had done the best job, I probably wouldn't have got any money also.
How do you communicate this to your co-founder or your team back then? Because you realized that money were not coming in, and then company was going to shut down anytime soon.
So let's start very tactical first, right? Once I realized already that I'm not going to get this 16 or $14 million in my funding.
Yeah.
I immediately had to look at our our cash flow. Okay, how much money do we have? How much receivables from our installments can I get in to make sure we can survive? And what are the costs that I can reduce? Yeah, because my goal is ensure survivability. Can we survive? So, number one, we didn't have a lot of cash because our cash was all parked in our installments that were coming back as receivables. So we had to calculate, okay, we have this amount of money. How much can we bring in if we stop all our sales? So I didn't want to stop our sales overnight because we had merchants relying on us. So we had to craft through, okay, this is our communication plan. Number one, employees should know first. Everyone should know what's going on. Number two, we have to communicate this in a very professional way to our merchants and not just shut off the lights and sorry guys, go deal with it yourself. Number three, we have to also communicate it to our users. And then number four, we have to take some drastic decisions after that. Yeah. So the first thing with employees, in full transparency, I told them, this is what's going on. This is our cash situation. This was promised by the investor. Well, I don't want to say promised lah. This was the expectation from this investor. It didn't turn out. That means we have to make some decisions to cut out our merchants and our users. Now, this was very hard first for employees because your immediate thought in your mind as an employee, can I still work here? I have house loan to pay, car loan to pay, family to feed. I have to think about, me as a founder, I care about all of these, right? I have to make sure that they're all taken care of. Okay. Then we look at our merchants. How do we offboard our merchants? We had to segmentize them. Okay, main priority to keep all the way until the last here. The cash generators, we prioritize them to offboard them last. And then the ones who are not very productive or not a good use of our funding, we have to offboard them immediately. So we did that gradual offboarding of our merchants. And the ones who, all of them, we get communicated hey, this is what we're going to do. Unfortunately, here's our options. We found them alternatives for them to work with. And then I think in some cases, we make some introductions as well. Basically giving my competitors, my customers, that's the right thing to do. You can't just shut it off and just leave everybody hanging, right? So once the merchants are all settled, we have to communicate to the users as well. Hey, we're not going to be able to serve you from next month. If you have any outstanding, we will still settle it. Otherwise, from next month onwards, we cannot serve you anymore. Yeah. When I say this, it sounds very this. We thought through this, very easy. It happened. But when you're actually there and you have to think about this, right at that point in time and actually action, it was not easy. Yeah. We made a lot of mistakes also. Don't let it sound like I'm telling you that we did all the right things. We screwed up a bunch of things. We communicated some stuff wrongly, pissed off customers, pissed off merchants. But it was the only thing we could do. That's the only thing we could do to survive. Once I knew we had enough cash already from the receivables coming in, then we had to make the difficult decision. Yeah. I had to tell our team. Basically, I think I laid off about half our team. Yeah. But I did it in such a way where, number one, they knew it up front, transparency of what was going on in the business. It's not they overnight, they just log in and then bye-bye. It's not that way. Because we were a small team. Right? We had about 20 people. So they all knew ahead of time that we were going to make these decisions. Number two, we ensured that myself and my co-founder, we were there to help them write recommendations or find connections into other companies or introduce them to companies. And then number three, we didn't want to overstress them in your last month with us, hey, you need to go and do all this and hand over. I want to make sure it was as peaceful as possible and make sure that they spend their time working their last month with us, finding their next opportunity. Yeah. It's the least that we could do for them, right? Because these are people who have worked with us 2, 3, 4 years. As a matter of principle, I think that was the right thing to do. Yeah.
I didn't know that there's so many things going on back then during the situation that you just described. So how did this journey of building Split shape your way or the approach of how you build Replyr? Do you take any learnings that you apply right now in Replyr?
Yeah, 100%. Number one is that my startup is not my child and my startup is not me. This was very, very hard to separate as a first-time founder. You have an idea, you have a bit of capital, you have passion, and you go ahead and you just go all in and try to build this vision that you see. A startup is more like science laboratory. You do experiments inside. Most of the experiments will fail, and the failures can give you insights on what not to do or what to do. And then you double down on the things that work. That means your first version of it, you're probably going to throw it away. Remember I said it's not your child, it's not you. Throw it away, try something else. Throw it away, try something else until it works. In my first startup, like Split, even before the e-commerce one, the travel one, I was so fixated on my idea, and I felt that I had to embody that idea and tell everybody, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep trying until this one works, without thinking that, hey, actually maybe you should iterate a bit or pivot, maybe do some minor pivots until you find something that works. That was how I was thinking at that point in time. Yeah. So number one, startup is a science laboratory. It's not your child, or it's not you. Which means like now, like the Replyr you see today is very different from when I first started doing some basic iterations on Replyr about 2 years ago. Yeah.
How do you start?
Replyr started by accident 2 years ago. Actually, slightly more than 2 years ago. Because at that time, I had just pivoted Split into something called Sugar. Sugar was the opposite of buy now, pay later, encouraging people to save up money before buying something later. Long story short, people don't want to save money. They just want to spend money. So as much as we could design a nice product, a rewarding product, if people don't want to save up money, they're not going to use your product. There's nothing you can do to change their behavior. So we discovered that. Yeah. So at the tail end of this was like, okay, remember the science lab? I said, sugar is not going to work. I'm invalidating it. This was the point that ChatGPT just launched, right? And then they also had APIs for people to use. So just for fun, I was using the APIs, and I checked out, I used like a no-code platform to build a very silly chatbot on Instagram for my friends and family. I called it Abeng GPT. If you're from Malaysia and from Singapore, you know what Abeng is. It's like those rowdy handphone sellers in Sim Lim Square or Lau Yat Plaza, the stereotype.
Yeah.
So I made an AI version of that who could speak like them, or at least chat like them. And your job was to negotiate with him to buy a very overpriced iPhone, and you get it as cheap as possible. So people love haggling, people love negotiating. This was everyone's chance to play. And for some reason, some people found it and posted it on some forum or some Facebook group. And overnight, it just went viral. Suddenly, people started sharing it because it was really funny. At the time, AI was like so new, or at least generative AI was so new. And there weren't many local experiences of generative AI. So this was like, okay, hey guys, this is Abeng GPT. Go and play. And overnight, suddenly, I had thousands of people playing. And even got into the news as well, because it's quite newsworthy, right? Like a local version of an AI on Instagram that you can negotiate with. And it was quite funny. Also, I designed it to be very funny. When people experiment, and you can lie, gaslight, cheat, steal, or even be very polite. Yeah, it's up to you. You just play that game. Because of that game's attention, some companies reach out to me and ask me, hey, can you build something like this for my company? I don't want to have a Abeng negotiating for stuff, but maybe you can do it to answer like customer questions on Instagram or Facebook. And then I'm like, sure, maybe let me try. Then I got my first customer paying us, I think it was like 900 ringgit, 200 USD equivalent, probably around there, to build a first version of an answering machine. It was completely crap. Okay, product was shit. It did not generate incremental sales. It did not save their costs. It was just a novelty for fun, and they were always churn within like 2 months. Yeah, which is why I said, if you showed 2 years ago Dylan what Replyr is today, it would be so different. Like he would be completely mind blown. Like, wow, you guys managed to build something like that in a span of 2 years. Because at that point in time, I didn't know what to do. I was just like, okay, you want this, I build for you, and then let's see what happens. So it took that 1.5 years of iterating, failure, churn, shitty product, until we started getting to closer and closer and closer to where the real value was. Yeah. So now what we do is we help to automate sales on WhatsApp by building AI agents that can not just chat, because chat anyone can do, right? But it can also perform actions behind the scenes. sales in any organization is not just one point of answering questions of people. You have a lot of moving parts: CRM, qualifying a lead, calendar scheduling, maybe payments. So you can't do that with a chatbot. You can only do that if you have AI agents. Well, if you can do that with humans, of course. But if you didn't want to use humans inside, you have to set up AI agents that can perform these different tasks within the workflow. That's how you can generate incremental sales. Yeah. So I discovered this the hard way over 1 to 2 years of iterating and failures. But this is where we discovered we can add a lot of value for businesses, and that's why they're willing to invest money into setting up Replyr for their customers. Yeah.
The time where you decided to focus on workflow automation, is it because a customer paid you a lot of money to do this, or how do you chance upon that? Oh, actually adding workflow automation, doing action is the way to go for Replyr instead of a chatbot.
Yeah. So I mentioned I had no technical background, I had no product technical background earlier. But I had to learn everything from scratch, by myself. But the good thing about nowadays is that there's so many no-code or low-code platforms that you can use, that you can build out all these and test it out. So when I was still searching for what I can do or what I can build, or once I get all these feedback from these churn customers, I started experimenting with different platforms online. I go on YouTube, I go on Reddit, X, Discord, and see what other people are doing. And then I try to figure out something for myself. So building out these workflows was a result of, number one, learning what not to do. Remember, I talked about Science Lab, all the trend customers. Yeah. And number two, being able to figure out a way to solve the problem that hasn't been able to be done before. So this AI agents part. To give maybe your viewers and readers a bit of context, if you are a business that operates a lot on WhatsApp and you're selling a lot on WhatsApp, you have a couple of options, maybe 2 options on what you want to do to automate your sales. Number one, you hire more people. In Southeast Asia, that's not hard, right? The average salary isn't very high, which is possible to do for a lot of them. But at a certain point, you hit a wall. It costs too much to hire and train versus figuring out how to automate it. The second way to automate is there are a number of customer communication management platforms. Basically, consolidate your inbox into one, and you can design some basic automations to qualify people before a human steps in. But it doesn't completely mean you can operate without any humans inside. So when I started to design Replyr, we start from scratch. How do I set up these automations without humans inside? What hasn't been able to be done before is because large language models were not really prominent 4 or 5 years ago. All these platforms all came years ago already. They're already there. Yeah. The problem with chatting, let's say I'm sending you a message on WhatsApp or we're typing an email or something, the way we type and chat is very different depending on the person. We could send 5 consecutive message, typos or casual spelling. And it's very open-ended and unstructured. So you couldn't use these old platforms to try to convert this unstructured chat, this casual chat, into very structured things for workflows. So let's say you want to call an API for a CRM, but we're just talking back and forth like friends. How do you get the key pieces of information from that chat into an API for a CRM? That's where the large language models can now make that happen, because I can set up agents within a workflow that can go through the conversation and convert this conversation into very structured inputs for an API. Yeah. Previously, you need to have humans who look at the chat. Okay, this one is a name. Okay, put the name in here. And this one is the company. You put the company over here. Now we can do that automatically. That's just one very small example. Yeah. So I had to learn everything, figure it out by myself, and then build out our first version of this AI agent workflow. At that time, I didn't call it an AI agent workflow. I didn't even know what to call it. I just called it a workflow automation. But surprisingly, it worked. And then our first customer that we got was because I posted a video about AI automation on our company Instagram. And a friend, or I guess an acquaintance from many years ago, saw that and said, "Hey, I'm actually working with this wellness company, and we have this problem that we're facing in terms of getting leads converted into sales. Can we have a chat?" So then when we talked, we caught up, you realize that, hey, your workflow, actually what you're describing to me can be done. Like literally they use like HubSpot. Okay, we need to connect into HubSpot. And then they have multiple outlets. So there are some constraints on where and when each outlet can have people going to. And they have the advertising campaigns. We have funneled their leads in. We figured out that we could set up agents across this entire workflow that basically automates that entire process. So that was, I think, our first proper customer where we had this workflow automation, and they're still our customer to this day, and we're generating sales for them like 24/7. Yeah.
Lovely. And how much do you get paid for this first customer, the workflow automation?
I'll give you a range, because the cost, I think just to preserve their confidentiality.
Okay.
I think when we started from this one company, it was under like $1,000 Sing dollars per month. Now we're making a few times that from one customer.
And you are charging, so I'm just wondering, so your pricing, you charge by a monthly subscription or you charge by usage based on the number of messages? Like how do you charge?
Monthly subscription.
Oh, monthly subscription.
Yeah, it's a monthly subscription that we charge. Okay, to be honest with you, as an early stage company, I still haven't figured out the best way, the optimum way to price our product. So the way I do it right now is I look at the complexity of the scope, look at the estimated volume of chats that we need to use, and you know that the variable cost is your tokens that you need to pay to the AI companies, right? So we bake that into our costs, and then we charge a flat monthly fee. Because a key insight that I learned is like if you try to tell the customer, okay, our base fee is this one, and based on this usage, your tokens will cost this much, we will charge you this much. Nobody knows all that, okay? Most people are not technical people. So I just say, okay, it's going to cost you this much per month. This is the fee that you pay. If you want to adjust the scope significantly over time, we will adjust the fee. Otherwise, it's very predictable for you. You do this, you can scale up your sales, and it's a fixed fee you have to pay.
Right, okay. And is there anyone push back the price point that you proposed previously, or everyone just okay with the pricing? Like, do you face any pricing rejection back then? What was the common objection? Hey, Dylan, can you just make discount or this shit,
Yeah. Okay. So I think when you go into selling to a company, right, and you say, "Hey, I built a really smart AI." When I say AI agent, people don't know. A lot of people still don't know what AI agent is. So I have to explain. But if you don't explain and you say, "Oh yeah, I give you a really smart chatbot," in your mind you're already benchmarking. Okay, I saw this website. I can build a chatbot for like 100 ringgit a month, like $20 a month. Why do I have to pay you like $1,000 US a month, right?
Yeah.
So then I have to, break it down and explain to them, number one, a chatbot can only answer people. Like, there's only one small part of your sales cycle. But if you think about your entire sales cycle, after you chat, maybe you need to schedule an appointment for them, or maybe you need to collect payment, maybe you need to check a calendar for their availability, then you need to sync everything up with a CRM. How do you do that now? Then you're like, okay, we have 3 people to do that. And then I'll just ask something like, what happens like after office hours? Right? Who does it? Then you're like, nobody does it. We just wait until the next day, then we can serve the customer. And like, okay, so there's an opportunity cost there already. And you have a headcount of like 3 people or 5 people, whatever it is. Do they respond to everyone on time? Like, are they able to get people to go through that workflow consistently? So then when you break down the math and say like, okay, this is how much you're paying, this is how much revenue you're getting, but this is how much money you're leaving on the table without serving these people on time, or like them having to wait or find other solutions elsewhere. I can solve all this for you. I can make this headache go away at a fraction of the cost of hiring like 3 more people. Yeah. So when you do that math, then it's much easier to assess, because I'm doing the workflow. I'm not doing the chatbot. Chatbot, you benchmark me against the $20 guys a month, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm doing your entire workflow. I can fix the gaps in your business at a fraction of the cost and generate you incremental revenue. Yeah. So that's my pitch.
Oh, so basically you ask deeper questions to uncover those hidden costs that maybe they're not even aware of.
Right.
And then highlight that if this is the problem that you are facing or might be facing, why not just pay for my product and then help you fix all the problems. That's how they pay for a higher price point.
Yep. So this doesn't just apply for my business. I think this is it's a very fundamental, or at least necessary sales, a way of communicating the value of your product and also selling efficiently, right? It's not about trying to like deceive people or like lie to them about your product. It's to really think of the bigger picture of your business. Okay, what gaps are there? How can my product fill the gaps? And then try to decouple the perception of your product being the same as that chatbot thing, right? So that's how I would do sales. I think most of my sales calls, right, I'm only talking like 30% of the time. I actually want to hear more from the people across the site, like who I'm pitching to. They're explaining to me, telling me about their business, telling me about the pain points and the gaps. And I will set the expectation up front. I will always say, by the end of this call, my goal is for you to have better clarity on how you can solve the problem. It might be with us, but it might not be with us. If it's not with us, I'm also happy to advise you on how you can do it and solve this problem. Because in many cases, they will reach out to me and then we have the sales call, but I realize our product is not suitable for them. Either they're not in our ICP, our target customer. I will always advise them, here's how you could solve it. And you can reach out to me anytime if you need advice. I'm there as like an advisor rather than I'm a salesman. I'm going to sell you something.
What's your single best tip for founders who are selling a B2B product?
Just listen. Yeah.
Just listen. Okay.
So the thing I use this note taker, and the note taker has a pop-up that tells me how long I've been talking, how long I've been monologuing in front of the client. I try to keep it to like 30-40% and let them talk more. Because you're not there to sell your business. You're there with a toolbox. Your customer is there. You don't know which tool to take out from the toolbox to give them. You only know which tool to take out once they have explained to you and told you about their problem, their pain point, what they wish that they had. And then by the end of it, it's like, oh, okay, I hear you. This is the screwdriver that you need.
One thing I realized that I faced myself back then is how do you know the problem that is described are actually a true problem, not a fake problem? Like, do you have any framework or questions that you often ask to get the ground truth instead of just surface level answers?
I will never ask close-ended questions. So it's always open-ended. Questions that start with like what or how. Yeah. It's not like, do you have this problem? Yes or no. It's not like that. It's like, hey, tell me about how you qualify your leads now. Or what process do you use to ensure that like every lead that is coming in gets a timely response. Then they'll start explaining to me. When it's open-ended, then you can talk about whatever you want. And you can already notice if somebody mentions a specific point maybe more than once, you know that there's a bit of like maybe some pain over there. Then I can dive in. You mentioned earlier that, hey, sometimes your customers only get responses like 2 or 3 days. How come? Yeah. Then they can explain to you more. Once I get all this information, then we work backwards, right? Let's quantify, okay, this problem. Okay, you said an average customer pays $1,000 per transaction. You get 100 leads, but you only have a 5% conversion. And you said that, if for like 20 to 30% of the leads you don't get back to them on time, you're probably leaving this much money on the table as a business. Then I would deep dive into more questions, like ask them, okay, what else do you think you could be doing better for the customer? So again, open-ended questions, but also trying to poke and try to understand the pain points and the gaps. It also highly depends on who you're talking to, right? Have to have a bit of nuance over here. You're speaking to the founder, you can get a bit real, and then like, okay, they might know the pain points very well at a very high level. But if you're speaking to a lower level, maybe a medium to high level manager, I have to take some things with a pinch of salt, right? Because obviously they're focused on their job and their perception within the organization. So you have to be a bit mindful on the way you phrase your questions. Like, instead of asking, hey, what's causing people to get their responses like so late right now? Like, you don't want them to make them feel like they lose face, right? So you just say, okay, what are some things that you thought about on trying to improve the workflow right now? Just reframe it into something more positive. So these little things, right? Once you speak to like hundreds or even thousands of people, you learn it well enough that it's much easier to practice in the wild. Yeah, so I guess that's something that have to learn from making a lot of mistakes. So
what is your ARR now?
We are about 180,000.
How do you scale from 0 to 100,000?
So we don't spend anything on advertising.
Oh, 0 ads.
Zero advertising spend. Yeah. Okay. For now, I will consider it at some point, but now we don't need to. Okay, so I got our customers in three main ways. One is through natural cold outbound. Like I set up LinkedIn and email outreach automations to reach out to prospective customers.
Right.
I wouldn't be an AI agent company if I didn't set up my own automations out to people. And then when they respond, I would take over. And then I would schedule a time to call and speak with them. That's number one. Number two is through referrals, or like people who have worked with us or seen our product and then referred us to these businesses. Hey, you should speak to this guy. This guy, he needs your service. The third one is through content. I don't want to, calling it content will silo myself into like, maybe I write articles or I post videos, but that's not really how I do it, right? Let's call it inbound, like inbound sales, where I put out videos, products, articles, Facebook postings that with the intention of it getting as much attention as possible, and then people reach out to me. So I've done this 3 times already. Each of the times it went viral and I got customers. The first one was Abeng GPT, that phone negotiation one. That was by accident, okay? I did not plan that, okay?
Yeah.
But remember I talked about people's natural interest on like local AI. Like how can we, this is like an AI that can speak like a local person and it knows the context or can do stuff that I need locally. The second one I built was something called Najib AI. So Najib AI is a receipt tracker tool on WhatsApp where you take a photo of a receipt and then it extracts the pieces of information and it compiles them into like a memory that you can ask later, like, hey, how much did I spend on food last week, or how much did I spend on clothing at this store? So it itemizes everything for you. So when I built that, I was hesitant to launch it at first because I didn't think people wanted like a budgeting tool. But you never know, right? These kind of things, you just put out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
So when I posted that, the utility of having a receipt tracker, which works better than any other paid product in the market, you take a photo, it extracts everything, and then it compiles it for you. And you can ask later, like a real assistant. Versus the funny name, the name that is ironic, recognizable, memorable, then it went viral again. So that people started using it. I get so many receipts of people just like, hey, testing it or also using it. Like even daily active users, I was so surprised, right? And that's how I got the media coverage, because the headline was Najib AI helps you track your finances. Yeah, so that's quite funny. Then I got customers reaching out also lah. Like, hey, can we work with you? What else do you do? They get led to our website and then they go check it out. The third one that I made is something called Scammers on Hold AI. This was now I'm intentionally trying to get viral because I know the first 2 times it worked already. Let's do it again. Yeah. So I understood that the universal pain from people is like people get scam messages or get scammed all the time. There's no way. How do we combat it, right? There's nothing we can do. We just have to ignore or block, or they just keep coming over and over again. And I thought if I could build an AI agent that would waste the scammer's time infinitely and then log all the conversations into like a place where everyone can track in like a scoreboard, it will be very funny. Yeah, it'll be very funny, number one. But also people can feel that sense of like revenge, right? Waste the scammer's time instead. Yeah. But I didn't know what to name it. I needed it to be something funny. So I met Kylie from 500. He's one of our backers from Split at the time. And I was telling him about what I'm doing. And then he says, I knew I wanted to have the word AI behind. And I know everyone hates scammers. So I said, I called it like Soh AI. Like Soh is the surname of the character. Then he's like, why don't you name it like Scammers on Hold AI? And I was like, okay, that's a very good name. Okay, let's call it Scammers on Hold AI. And then I launched it out into the wild, into that Facebook group. That Facebook group of like, since you're inside, it's like entrepreneurs, like tech people. So I posted it and it also exploded. And then like overnight, people went to play and go and chat with the AI themselves instead of sending it to scammers. So, and then because it was such an interesting name and the use case, I started to get like media requests from from online publications. And I think I lost count already how many websites covered it. I did so many interviews. I went on radio, I went on TV, I went on print, and then I went into international news also, just talking about this thing that I built. And even now, it's a sustained interest. Like on August, I've been invited by a Securities Commission in Malaysia to talk about how I built it and how people can also build AI agents like that by themselves. Yeah. So there is a benefit to society as a whole, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, on a more commercial side of my business, I have that credibility and also the awareness. I remember one of my customers who's like, I went to your website, there's nothing much there. How do I know you can build these AI agents? So I very jokingly, I said, you just Google my name and you put the word Sohai behind, and then you'll see. So he went to Google Dylan Tan Sohai, and then he saw that, and then he laughed like, okay, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I love how you are building all these interesting product for the social good, right? While also soft promoting your company so that you attract those inbounds effortlessly 24/7. And you seem to have cracked the code though. You have done the first time, second time, and now the third time. And all these are consistently bringing you new leads, right?
Yes, directly but also indirectly, right? Indirectly is like when I reach out to people or when people reach out to me, how do you build credibility? And if they see you in the news or they see you've built some really cool stuff before, then it helps your case to why you should work with me. Otherwise, I'm just a regular pre-seed founder why would a big company trust me? In fact, Sohai or Soh AI was the reason I got Malaysia's biggest telco as my customer. So I built an AI agent for them for one of their marketing campaigns that just concluded over last weekend. And like they would not have known me if I had not built this and gone into the news. But because of what I built, then a lot of these bigger brands, they look at it and say, hey, we should speak with Dylan and go and talk to him. Yeah.
To be exact, who are your ICP now? Are these enterprise companies at certain verticals that you are focusing on? Or you can basically do any workflow automation for any ICP? Do you have a specific ICP that you are targeting now?
I have 3 now.
Oh.
Let's go by industry first, right? Okay. The 3 industries are elective healthcare and wellness. Elective healthcare means like this is not like emergency healthcare or you go to the hospital because you're like really sick. This is maybe for like your skin or cosmetic or your hair or like the spine, things that you can choose to do, a physiotherapy, things like that. They face the same problem. How do you convert leads into appointments? There's so many steps in between and it's all done by humans now. But we figured out how we can filter, convert, and get people walking in their doors 24/7, and it's all synced up to their CRM and to their internal business systems. That's one. The second industry is, funnily enough, solar, consumer solar. It's, to most people, it's not like a sexy industry or anything, but it's growing so fast. Price of electricity is going up. Cost of solar panels are going down. The addressable market of solar panels is increasing, but they have the same problem. They have thousands, tens of thousands of leads. How do you get people into installing your solar panel? There's so many steps in between just to convert a customer. So we've figured out like how to do that effectively for solar companies. The third one, which is quite new to me, is in travel and hospitality. It's new because we talked earlier about, before we started this podcast, about me pitching in Barcelona at a global startup pitch. I pitched at a travel tech conference, a travel application of Replyr, and we won that pitch. And then I got a lot of inbound interest from people who were like, hey, can we work together? How do we use Replyr for my hotel? Or I have a bunch of hotels that we can work with. Now I understand the pain point a lot more now. And I have a lot more confidence in like, okay, this is a vertical that I can spend a lot of time on. Yeah.
Right. What's the tech stack like? Because from what I see in the market now, right, there also a rise of other workflow automation tools like, I'm sure you heard of it, NAN, right? And also Lindy.ai, which is a less technical one. How are you differentiating Replyr from all these platforms?
Okay, this answer might surprise you, but I built Replyr on no code because I feel like it can get the job done right now. I use third-party no-code platforms to set up like a lot of our workflows. And the analogy I like to use is that a designer uses Photoshop to deliver their deliverables for their client. With a lot of these no-code workflow AI automation platforms, there are a lot of Photoshops that are available. But our customers don't care about Photoshop. They care about what's the end design. So I'm not pitching like, hey, this is a platform where you can go and use and you design your own designs like Photoshop. I am delivering the actual artwork to our clients. I'm building, it doesn't matter, they don't need to know, it doesn't matter what platforms I'm building on. All that matters is that I can help their business. Yeah. So as an early stage company, remember I talked about science laboratory? So I start figuring out, okay, Reddit, Twitter, Discord, YouTube, how to build like basic AI agents. I went through so many different platforms to build on. And then finally, I found a few that work really well for us to build out for our customers. And then I build it out for them. Replyr is not a software vendor where I give you the software and then you go and set it up yourself. We go in, we sit, understand the problem, which we know pretty familiar across our ICPs right now, and we build out the AI agents and the automations for them. Most of our clients are not tech savvy, they are not AI people, they don't know much about automation. They just know the problem and we come in and fix the problem for them. Which is why our price point is also targeting towards medium to large companies. We are not like a $20 a month solution. Customers are paying us between $1,000 to $3,000 a month, USD.
High level question is, what is the game plan that you have for Replyr in the next 3 to 5 years?
There's a few parts of your question over there. Let's start with like, what's my vision for Replyr? I see us as our aspiration is to be the operating system for customer communication.
Yeah.
Which is, there's 3 layers there. Okay. One layer is what platforms are you on? Right now we do WhatsApp very well, but can we get on like email, WeChat, phone, line chat, text messaging as well? Number 2 is the business tools that you're connected to. Like, can we connect to not just your CRM, payment gateway, calendar, but maybe your internal dashboard, internal tools, your logistics teams, or maybe your customer support, like information or dashboards? How can we connect everything together so that this operating system knows what's going on with every single customer communication, right? Not just marketing and sales. And the third one is different functions. Now we do sales very well. We do a bit of marketing as well, but can we touch operations, customer service, after sales service as well? So once you have these 3 layers inside, then we become a very powerful tool for a business. This operating system, like, imagine you could just ask, like, what was our best-selling product 2 weeks ago? Now we're connecting into their e-commerce, maybe their order management, you can see, right? Okay, the best product is this ABC. Then you can ask, who are the type of people who are buying it? Okay, you have the type of person, this is the profile, this is the average spend. Then I say, okay, look, I want to target these similar customers within our database. I want to reach out to them via WhatsApp. Can you craft a really good outreach message for them and the interaction to try and get them to also buy the same product? Then you can just command it and then it goes out to these customers via WhatsApp and tries to convert them. If you try to do that now, there's so many moving parts that need to be figured out, analytics, and humans need to do it every single step. So the vision is, I think we can get to a stage where we can do all this for our business across channels, tools, and functions. So that's the 3 layers. Okay. To break it down to today, what we have, like I mentioned, I build it on no-code third-party platforms.
Yeah.
That's obviously not the right way to do it long run, but it works now as an early stage startup, science laboratory. One of my focuses this year is how we can build out our own stack. And we know exactly the features that we want. We know exactly the product, what it should look like, what it should do already, because we've done it ourselves with these third-party tools and decouple ourselves from having to rely on third parties, and then we build everything by ourselves. The 2 benefits are, 1, we have full control over what the product is supposed to be. Number 2, we can work with enterprise clients who have stricter compliance requirements that we can customize for them. It's a very big task to figure this out, but we do this. We built a really giant moat by being, number 1, the operating system, And number two, the tech stack is not built on third-party tools, so it's not very easy for someone to just replicate that over time.
Right. Are you looking out for a so-called tech co-founder now?
I am. I'm not actively yet, but now I guess behind the scenes still just putting my feelers around and see if I can find someone who I can trust deeply and work together to build out this vision. Yeah.
So now you have been building Replyr for 2 years?
I guess since Bing GPT, that's 2 years. I wouldn't call that Replyr. Yeah. But setting up the company was just last year. Yeah.
Any toughest moment throughout your Replyr's journey that you haven't shared publicly before?
When I was a first-time founder and I was constantly fundraising for my business, and it's very normal. Right? You're a founder, it's a full-time job, right? Going to fundraise.
Yeah.
The mistakes that I made, which I rethink now, is number one, be very mindful of who you want on your cap table. Different people have different philosophies of investing and ways that they liked to do things and expectations from that relationship. It is important to find people who align with you on those beliefs and philosophies, because a startup is a long-term game. Many years, could be decades or more, right? Misalignments cost you time, money, and sanity. But I also recognize that when you're in your early stages, you find someone who wants to give you money, you have to take it, because otherwise how are you going to survive? The way around that is like with Replyr, I don't rely on investors to continue growing. So I mentioned I don't spend on advertisements. Actually, now my team is very lean. I only have 2 full-time employees and we are profitable already. I don't have to think, like, do I have to find investors to survive and keep the lights on? That's not a big worry of mine. Yeah. So find investors to back you who have the same philosophy and beliefs as you have with your business, and that you can see them backing you and being on your side of the ring when you're like all beat up, like bleeding. Can you find those people who will still be there and support you? I've had so many of those people who really, at your worst points in time, they are the ones who are holding you up and then like supporting you and making sure you don't lose faith or give up. Not because of the money they put in, but because they genuinely care about you. And those are the most important people that you want to have by your side. Yeah. Now, having the benefit of not having to worry about my runway, I can be more mindful and think very carefully about who I want to work with. Yeah.
And so far on your cap table is right now for Replyr is just iterative, right?
This is a good segue from the previous question. It's just iterative. Me, my 2 previous institutional investors, EF and 500 Global.
Oh, they're still here?
So, okay, let me explain to you.
Okay.
In my first startup, when I launched Replyr and Iterative offered me their pre-seed funding in their program, our cap table was already very, how do I put it, mature. Mature means like there's a large number of investors. My co-founder and I had been diluted to like a minority already. So it's very hard for a new investor to come in and say, okay, you're launching a new business and we want to back you, but you own a minority and there's like so many other investors inside. It's not investable. Yeah. Can you restructure the company? Or you just set up a company and then we'll just back you in your new company. I didn't want to do that because I think it's like, now that I ask a lot of founders, they will say, yeah, you just like screw it, just start up a new company and just start afresh. Eliminates all your headache. But for me, I guess maybe our Asian background, right? Where you feel a sense of obligation and duty to the people who have backed you, and you want to make sure that you don't like completely cut them off. So we were running out of money already, and then I said to Iterative, like, can I restructure my company in such a way that I can still give skin in the game to my old investors who have decided to keep backing me despite like our constant pivots and like failures, And then we negotiated a way for the old investors to still be on the cap table, where they still have a stake, and if we do really well, they can still benefit from it. But it solved the problem of the over dilution of the founders and the over messy cap table that we had before. I bring this up, I say, as a segue to the previous point, is because I'm still going through this restructuring 1 year later. It took a lot of my time and like effort and sanity trying to plan this out with our lawyers, a lot of back and forth, the process, the paperwork, it takes so long, and to get everyone in alignment, I think it's like 40 plus parties,
40 parties? Wow.
Yeah. So as much as I wanted to have that sense of duty and principle to our investors who have backed us, I also kind of shot myself in the foot. Yeah. But I feel it was the right thing to do at that point in time. Yeah. So yes, to answer your question, I still have EF, I still have 500, and the group of my angel investors who are now on my cap table.
Are you planning to raise another round anytime soon, or you like right now just full force bootstrapping and then getting the unit economics, the product and all this up first before you go on to raise the next round?
I am not actively fundraising. Remember, it's an opportunity cost away from your business. But if I find the right partners who number one, not just the money, right, but is there some advantage of like distribution or like product advantages that we can get from a new investor, I would definitely consider it. We've had a number of angel investors also commit to us, but I did not want to take their money yet until I'm very clear. I'm deciding, okay, I have a group of investors, I can raise this amount of money and they can help me get to my next stage. So short answer, no. Long answer, maybe, yeah.
And now you are just doing everything by myself. You are the solo founder, basically.
Yeah. So I still handle most of the major functions. I have 2 full-time employees who help me with like building, implementation for our clients, and also some client-facing stuff. But sales, marketing, I don't know, like statutory stuff, expansion, I think I'm still doing it. And I'm still involved in the product, like the strategy on what we want to build and who we want to target and how we're going to do that. Yeah. So basically I'm saying I'm wearing a lot of hats. Yeah.
Given what you know now, if you were to start Replyr again, right, from scratch, okay, literally from clean slate, how will you do differently if you could start it all over again? Or will you do the same thing?
I think the iteration to get to where we are right now, I would have to go through that journey because I need to know what doesn't work and what works. But in parallel, if I had funding, okay, let's go through the different scenarios. If I had funding, I would already start thinking about our own stack very early on, so we can start building and iterating and having our own stack. But if I didn't have it, I think we would still continue growing organically, because once you've figured out this use case and the ICPs that are willing to invest money into Replyr for our service, it becomes a significantly easier path to cash flow. So your fundraising is through your customers who pay you revenue instead of like going out to fundraise money. I would still try to bootstrap as much as we can. Might not even take any funding if we could, because if I completely bootstrap and then we just start from scratch, might be possible. But having an investor like Iterative backing us very early is super helpful. Like they helped us go from zero. We grew our revenue from a very small base 10 times during the Iterative program, from like 10,000 to like 100,000 ARR, because the program was so good, and I was pushed really to my limit over there.
What is one thing that you learned from joining Iterative that helped you increase your sales 10 times? Yeah,
so I think Sukan said something very interesting to me that I still remember now. Every business can be broken down into a math equation for whatever you want. So let's say your North Star goal is ARR or MRR, whatever it is. That's the output, right? What are the inputs in to get that output? So if you think about it from like a sales funnel, it's like how many sales meetings you schedule, which is a function of like your outreach, how many meetings go into like negotiations, how many negotiations go into like closing into signing, and then signing into revenue. If you mapped out exactly at every step of the way how many you have of each, you would know how to play around with these and where to spend your time so that you can increase your North Star. So if your conversion from like meeting into customer is very high, but you have a very low number of meetings, that means maybe you need to do your outreach a bit better, or maybe you need to do your qualification more. That was, I think, my takeaway. So I actually mapped it out on like a spreadsheet, and then okay, A, B, C, D, E, here are all my inputs and here's my output. And then I would set minimum expectations, what I needed to hit every week. And I would like go all out to make sure I hit those numbers. I just literally reach out to anyone who would want to speak to me, which I wouldn't have done if I was doing it by myself.
Powerful. So thinking mathematically what variables to tune to achieve your North Star is like the best way to just have an action plan and do the things and just achieve the goals. I think that gives so much clarity as opposed to just use, I want to hit 100,000 ARR, and then you just try different things. Maybe something that is not in the equation that may or may not work.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Cool. I think, last question, right? So for founders listening now, what's one piece of advice you give to them before they start? Or maybe one trap to avoid? I
will call back to what I said at the start of this podcast, right?
Yes.
Your startup is not your baby. Your startup is not you. If your startup makes a mistake, you screw up, the product sucks, customer rejects you, it's not a reflection of who you are, you should just iterate until you don't have that same outcome. If a lot of feedback you're getting is the same and it's not feedback that you like, change something. Yeah. This is important advice, not just from a business perspective, but also from a sanity perspective. Because if you link your identity to your startup and your startup fails, you're implicitly telling yourself that you have failed. Which, as a founder, and it's super lonely and you have no one really else to talk about, you can take that to heart and you can feel really bad about it. So go in with the expectation that your startup is a separate entity from you. You are merely managing it and building it up because you care a lot about it, but it is not you, it is not your child.
So basically, don't be too attached to the startup that you built, and just treat it as an experiment, or rather what you call it, science lab, to keep iterating and then until you find something that works.
Correct.
And yeah, so where do people can find you online if they want to follow up with you on anything?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can search my name. If you are frequent on Facebook groups with entrepreneurs in Malaysia, you might see my name there once in a while posting. You can also reach out to me on Facebook. But if they want to connect directly with me, Edmund is the guy to connect.
Thanks, man. Or just Google Dylan, SOHAI.
Yeah, you can, but you'll find news articles about me, not my contact.
Okay. Cool. And how can our viewers be useful to you?
I think if you know a business that struggles with so if you know a business that does their sales primarily through WhatsApp or chat like Facebook and Instagram as well, and they're at a certain size where they're struggling with being able to get their customers because it's chat, I will be happy to have a chat with them. So like I said earlier, it's not a sales pitch. I will go into the call with the expectation is that by the end of the call, they know how to fix their problem. If it's with us, that'll be awesome. Like we can work together. If it's not, I can advise them on how they could solve that problem.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing your insights and your journey here, man. Really appreciate your time here.
Thanks, Edmund. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. Catch you.